brutal attacks on the Iranian people.
We heard the same promises and the same excuses and reasoning for the Iraq war that we're hearing today. And they're shifting constantly to justify our presence in the Middle East.
Congress are the ones who approve it. Where are they? They have that power to stop Trump's recklessness. And I don't understand what in the world are they doing.
As a veteran, I know the harm that wars do to civilian populations, but also to our soldiers. I'm talking about the loss of life. I'm talking about injuries and lives changed forever. I'm talking about PTSD and moral injury, and that's why I'm here today.
Because how does American politics really work? It's coin operated. Money goes in, favors come out. It's been running on secret money, corporate money, billionaire money, both sides. Both sides. Citizens United was the worst court decision in modern American history. It's why members of Congress don't listen to the people. They listen to their donors. And this corruption is why insurance companies get away with denying your claim for a procedure you needed to save your life. This corruption is why big tech's still allowed to spy on us and track our every move and sell our private lives to the highest bidder. This corruption is why the ultra-rich get tax cuts while you pay more for everything. And beneath it all, a lazy, cynical expedience in Congress and in both political parties, serving donors and reciting poll-tested talking points with no higher purpose than winning the next election. A politics unmoored from fixed moral principles and incapable of inspiration or great national achievement. And all of this gave rise to a depraved president who exploits this rot to empower and enrich himself.
By ending some of the partisan gerrymandering so that all voters have the power to choose their politicians, not the other way around.
In April, Virginians can respond by making sure your voting power is not diminished. This amendment gives you the power to level the playing field in the midterms this fall. This is the responsible thing to do.
See, one thing about Democrats is that they care about winning. That's it. They care about looking virtuous and winning, which is why you can see Barack Obama walk all over his words and now tell people in Virginia that the responsible thing to do is to vote to allow the government to gerrymander the districts. Currently, Virginia is one of the most balanced states in the entire country. There are 11 House seats. 6 of them are currently going to Democrats, 5 are going to Republicans. Democrats want to gerrymander this and take it 10-1 in favor of Democrats. So right now it's around 55% to Democrats. They want to take that and turn it to 90% for Democrats. And what's crazy to me, rather than saying, yeah, we really don't give a shit, we just want to win, I could respect that more than them acting like they're virtuous about it. Because they do this and then they still act like they're being virtuous. No, you guys are not virtuous. You are playing the game to win, and you're willing to disenfranchise half of your state to do it. Just say that. Again, they want to take one of the most balanced states with one of the most balanced electorates and turn it into essentially a Democrat stronghold in the House of Representatives. Again, 10-1. These people don't care about morals. They don't care about virtue. They care about virtue signaling, and they care about winning. So if you're in Virginia, go vote no. Work hard to not let them do this. Go vote no on the redistricting effort. I cover many topics like this in my newsletter. I send that out every morning around 7 a.m. Central. The link is in my profile. Click that link, drop your email in, hit subscribe, and you'll be good to go. I hope to see you there.
Breaking news out of Virginia and a massive blow to Donald Trump where the congressional redistricting amendment has passed. The vote has been called and the yeses have it. This is going to dramatically change the congressional map for the state and have massive implications for the midterm elections. I watched Steve Kornacki call it live on MS Now, and who doesn't love us some Kornacki on an election night? Right now, there is a 6-10 Democrat to Republican split in the state of Virginia. This could change to 10 Democrats to 1 Republican seat representing the state in Washington, and Donald Trump is pissed. He said today that if this referendum passed, it will silence Virginia conservatives. And who doesn't love it when some conservatives are silenced? Votes are still coming in, but the deficit is just too much to overcome for the noes at this point with the districts that have already reported. Once, I'm actually happy to see Democrats beating Republicans at their own game. Republicans have been redistricting and gerrymandering for decades, and now the tables have turned. And they always will. The pendulum always swings both ways. But remember, with the midterms coming up in November, please make sure you are registered to vote. Whether you live in Virginia or anywhere else in this country, go to your Secretary of State's website and check your voter registration and make sure everything is up to date. And if you are not registered to vote, please do so. But this is a massive win and really should have Republicans worried for November.
This man has made America weaker. He has caused us, because he is the first president, Republican or Democrat, since World War II, to not concern himself, much less, he thumbs his nose at the importance of America's alliances, our friendships, and he thumbs his nose at America's responsibility to uphold standards such as sovereignty and territorial integrity. See Ukraine. And so what he has done, not to mention what he has done to cut USAID and what that means for people on the continent of Africa and so many other places around the world. And what he has done has caused us to become more unreliable and to lose our influence to then be able, imperfect though we certainly are, flawed though we certainly are, to be able to talk about matters of human rights around the world. The lingering impact of so much of what is happening out of this White House is something we are going to have to deal with for a very long time. And that's why I am focused right now, as much as anything, and what gives me hope, Leah, is that we're going to win the midterms. It's going to be difficult, and I know all the folks here know, and all the sisters from the Colored Girls who I'm looking at right now, Mignon in particular. We're going to win the midterms, but it's going to be so difficult. But this is what I would say to all the friends. It's really important, yes, that we pay attention to the crises of this moment, focus on winning the midterms, even though they're trying to make it more difficult for folks to vote. And as we walk and chew gum at the same time, let's focus on what we must do when we are in power. Right. And understand that our vision has to be, as it will directly impact the leaders in this room with your work that you have always done and will do, what we have to have a vision for in terms of affordable childcare, affordable health care, affordable housing, and have a vision that is about actually getting this stuff done, recognizing that at some point this administration will be termed out and there's going to be a whole lot of debris. And I would caution us against talking about rebuilding with any sense of nostalgia about how things were. Because even before, they weren't working so well for a lot of folks.
Anti-Muslim rhetoric is starting to rise across the South, from Tennessee to Texas to Florida. And the last time it was this bad was right after the 9/11 terrorist attacks. I'm Jason Boyette, and I write about religion. So a lot of American Muslims were drawn to Republican politics because of GOP positions on family values and personal liberty. But now, as Muslim Southerners become more visible, Republican lawmakers are turning against them. And it's not just random prejudice, it's actually becoming a political strategy. In American politics, visibility can turn into vulnerability really fast, and that's what we're seeing. The New York Times has a report about how Muslim students and community leaders are now starting to push back against anti-Sharia bills and politicians who are openly casting Islam as a threat. Because here's the pattern. In the South, Muslims are starting to do things like building schools, they're winning local office, they're lobbying lawmakers, they're showing up in public life. In Texas, they made plans to start a housing development, and that made its way all the way up to the governor's office, which was so upset about this. That visibility As Muslims become more visible in public life, it's being turned against them. Their faith is getting cast as foreign or dangerous, even if they were born here, even if they were raised here, even if they've spent years serving their communities. In a lot of cases, these Muslims are in high education professions. They're in medicine, they're engineers, they are entrepreneurs. They're the doctors helping these politicians and their constituents. But now the GOP has decided to frame Muslims as the enemy. The more undeniable their presence becomes, the more you see Muslims at the grocery store, the louder the effort to frame them as a threat. That's the mechanism. When politicians run out of one enemy, they go looking for another enemy, and in this case, they've landed on Muslim Americans. It's dangerous, it's actually costing Republicans votes, and it's a direct conflict with the religious liberty they claim to believe in. I cover this stuff in my Religioverse newsletter if you ever want to read instead of scroll.
I voted no because I believe it's a communist takeover of the state of Virginia.
I voted yes because I believe in fair elections, and I also think it's possible we could stop Trump this way.
The boundaries were set a long time ago, I guess, I'm assuming, and I just didn't like the idea of changing.
I vote yes because I want fair elections. I think this new map is a temporary redrawing of the maps to counter an authoritarian move.
Because I believe that Virginia has a responsibility to save democracy.
I look at it more not really in terms of Republican versus Democrat. We don't have the population of Northern Virginia, and as a rural area, we just need to be heard.
It is a temporary measure that has been stated over and over again. We are taking advantage of the tools that we have, and we are repairing a much needed balance.
Huge news out of Virginia today that you need to be aware of because this has national impact. Donald Trump and MAGA Republicans are freaking out today because Virginians have an opportunity to vote for a more fair voting map, countering what MAGA Republicans did in Texas. Virginians head to the ballot box today to vote for a new redistricting plan that could net Democrats up to 4 additional seats. Right now, 6 of the 11 seats in Virginia are held by Democrats, but this could be 10 of 11 seats held by Democrats if Virginians vote for this new voting map. And by the way, before MAGA Republicans scream about how this is gerrymandering, just remember this all began in Texas, where Donald Trump called Texas Governor Greg Abbott asking for additional MAGA seats because he knows they're doomed. He knows they're set for a massive landslide loss in the midterms. And at this point, not only are we going to see a blue wave, but we're going to see a left wave as well, because think about all of the insurgent progressive candidates running against corporate Democrats as well. Everything is moving further to the left. There is a massive progressive movement building in this country, and there is nothing Donald Trump can do to stop it but cheat. That's why we need to make sure this is too big to rig.
I just got back from a deep red Trump town in Georgia. And what I found about plans for a massive ICE detention center there may surprise you. Some MAGA diehards are breaking away from Trump in a big and real way, and now they're speaking out. In Social Circle, Georgia, some Trump supporters are pushing back. They're outraged. There is so much to my reporting, but you need to hear from Leanne Long, who's been taking this fight right to Republican leaders.
We're calling and nobody cares. Nobody's answering. Nobody knows. They say they don't know. We're just wondering, how do they not know?
So do you have some buyer's remorse right now?
I do. I've helped a lot of these candidates in their races, and I can tell you, I won't be helping them now. I won't be helping them. They don't have our back. They're not calling us.
So Leanne Long is this longtime Republican organizer and operative. She has spent decades getting Republicans into office. But as the Department of Homeland Security moves forward with these plans, she says she can't even get a call back from the very people she helped elect.
We've had some of our Democratic leaders come out and do more than our Republican leaders have done.
Is that uncomfortable for you?
It's very uncomfortable for me. I've had lots of discussions with Warnock's office, and I am proud of him for coming down here. It's very uncomfortable. You know, it's not going to make me vote Democratic. No, it won't make me vote for him, but I'm proud of him.
She told me she's proud of Democratic Senator Raphael Warnock. And when I asked her if that was something that made her a bit uncomfortable, she admitted that it did. What I saw and heard over and over again was this growing sense of abandonment, of betrayal among voters. Many are now left questioning the people that they've long supported, all as the 2026 midterms approach. For more on this story, watch my full investigation on YouTube at the link in our bio.
Virginia, congratulations. The race has been called, and it is a yes vote, a yes for a new congressional map that'll give 10 of the 11 seats potentially to the Democrats in order to give some actual checks and balances to this administration come the midterms. And Republicans, if you're mad about this, you shouldn't have started this fight. You shouldn't have started this with Texas, but at least with Virginia, they were allowed to vote whether they wanted a new congressional map. And guess what? They did.
We filed a bill today that essentially is called a no budget, no pay, which means if there's no budget, we don't get paid. So we have people across the state, teachers, state employees, people working in our prisons, state troopers, who really took a pay cut this year because there was, an increase in insurance costs, but they didn't get a raise. And so those folks are working every day to get paid less than they should be getting paid. We're here with one main job, which is to pass a budget and take care of the basic needs of the state. So the bill basically simply says, if there's no budget passed by the end of June, then we stop getting paid. And we don't get paid until there's a budget or we adjourn. It really is meant to bring home the point that we have a job to do and we shouldn't get paid for not doing our job while other people are struggling.
Hey everybody, it's Governor Wes Moore. So the Trump-Vance administration has recklessly plunged us into another unnecessary foreign war. And we're dangerously close to repeating the absolute same mistakes that we've made in the past. This is the kind of war I know all too well because I led soldiers with the 82nd Airborne Division in Afghanistan. And I know that it cost this country over $2 trillion, that we lost over 2,400 American lives, and now we're on pace for another forever foreign war, one that's already costing roughly $1 billion a day and driving up gas prices all across this country. The American people deserve clarity, not diplomacy by tweet. And Donald Trump and J.D. Vance have a responsibility to explain what the path forward is, how this ends, and why we're even doing this in the first place.
There is absolutely going to be a day when Donald Trump is no longer president of the United States of America. There will also be a day when J.D. Vance is no longer involved in our government, which tonight Virginia took a huge step in making that possible. If you haven't seen already, Virginia had the opportunity to say yes or no today to an amendment that would allow them to redraw congressional maps. These congressional maps would ultimately combat what Donald Trump has been trying to do, which that would be to swing things in his favor. Virginia decided to vote yes on this amendment. Whenever I make these videos, people always say that they feel as if there's nothing we can do to combat this administration and the people that Donald Trump has put into positions of power. Today was a big day of potentially stopping the power that they have. So I hope this gives you hope that there are things that we can do, that we truly can make happen and make this stop.
If you are, like me, a Virginian and you live in Virginia, then you know that today, April 21st, a Tuesday, is the day that we go to vote on whether or not to amend the Constitution to allow mid-decade redistricting. And the purpose of this mid-decade redistricting would be to change the maps as to eliminate pretty much all but one or two of the Republican-held congressional seats in Virginia.
Hey, virgins, you did it. And oh boy, did you do it. Look at that. That is a thing of beauty. This, I should mention, could not have been done without the help of Texas redistricting and gerrymandering their maps into oblivion on an off-census year. So kudos, Texas. You really showed us. In moments like this, when Republican losses are coming fast and furious, but also seemingly simultaneously too far and few between, it's nice to swim around in this one singular win and know that we are fighting back pretty fucking effectively against this goddamn tyranny. Good job, Virginia.
So we voted yes. Now what? So you may remember several months ago, Virginia Republicans brought a lawsuit against the redistricting referendum. They took it to a Tazewell County judge who issued an injunction against the referendum vote at all. That ruling was appealed up to the Virginia Supreme Court, and the Virginia Supreme Court said, we will make a decision about this after the referendum, but you could go ahead and have the election. they're supposed to make their decision around April 27th, maybe a few days earlier. Now, if they decide the referendum was illegal, then they would nullify the results of the election. If they decide the referendum was legal, then we will move forward with redistricting. Now, of course, either party could also appeal that decision up to the U.S. Supreme Court. But it seems unlikely that SCOTUS would intervene on this particular redistricting decision because they have declined to do so with California's referendum, with Texas's gerrymandering. Like, they don't seem to care. At this point, the Supreme Court has set a precedent for allowing partisan gerrymandering kind of no matter how it happens. And so it would be very much against everything that they've just recently set in the last couple of months to overturn Virginia's decision. But we shall see, so stay tuned.
We got to be honest about who we are as a country. Who are we and what do we believe? We are at a crossroads in this country. We cannot continue to make peace with a system that tells us that our best use of our tax dollars is to send money elsewhere in the form of bombs and tanks. We've got to decide that so long as we are willing to accommodate the likes of an AIPAC in our politics, do not be surprised when they take us to foreign wars we have no business fighting in. And I say that because I love my Jewish sisters and brothers, and because I love my Palestinian sisters and brothers. And the only reason you stand up to fight against genocide is because you love people. And we all got to get right about the fact that when we love people, we have to understand that human rights are universal. You cannot deny some people their rights and believe that you're giving them others. I know I got no business running for office. I got the wrong name, I pray the wrong way, I got the wrong skin color, got the wrong name. You heard it, 11 letters long. Got sounds that come out of parts of people's throats they don't know they have. But I am not going to stand on the stage and tell you what you cannot have and should not fight for. We need Democrats who are willing to take the fight to Donald Trump, who are willing to take a fight to the system that created Donald Trump, and are willing to go 10 rows down, to talk about getting money out of politics, putting that money back in pockets, fighting for unions, abolishing ICE and passing Medicare for all. My friends, my name is Abdul Al-Sayed, and I hope I can be that Democrat. Thank you so much.
What's up, beautiful and amazing people, guys. I hope you're doing well. Thank you so much for your support. I do appreciate. I don't take it for granted. And guys, in today's video, I am going to talk about American politics that are happening across the American land at the moment. So we've seen a couple of videos from Capitol Hill, and those veterans, military veterans, or rather U.S. military veterans. And we will also talk about a certain senator who is trying to make sure that politicians actually get to do their jobs, else they are not going to be paid. And that is a bill that she intends to pass via the Congress. Yeah, sorry for that. So kindly watch the video until the end. I really hope that you like this. You'll also get to comment, and let's engage, guys. So let's start off with a clip that really got me thinking about where our priorities lie as a nation, as a country, and even for Americans themselves. And this is all about Abdul El-Sayed. You all had speaking at the Michigan Democratic Convention, and I can tell you that he's not holding back. He's not holding back, guys. And honestly, guys, I want you to listen to him again and again. And you know, he said that actually, as Americans, they don't want to continue to make peace with a system that tells Americans that their best use of the tax is to send the money elsewhere, and in the form of, you know, the weapons that you just so heard from him. So that was so powerful, I can tell you, because El Sayed is actually is what he's doing is that he's challenging the very foundation of federal spending. Is questioning why so much of Americans' hard-earned tax money goes towards military works abroad when there are so many needs in the land of America, which is, according to him, it's extremely unfair. So this particular speech that he just said in Michigan, or whatever he said in Michigan, it resonates so well with a lot of Americans, and especially when you actually consider the clip that we just played, I can tell you it just makes a lot of sense. So a couple of days ago, that was on April 20th, we saw dozens of U.S. military veterans and their families arrested on Capitol Hill. Well, actually, these people, it's not like they were there for a photo. No, they were actually there to protest a potential war with Iran, and they were demanding an end to what they see as endless military funding for foreign conflicts. So we have also other mini groups, like, for instance, that came out and they were against about this particular situation. Nobody likes it at all. So what we have actually seen, we've seen people highlighting growing delusionment with this foreign policy issue and priorities. What really makes sense is when the administration prioritizes on basic needs, the medical, lower taxes, affordable food. But most of the policies that are being prioritized is on the military, and an American citizen is not really doing well. So this makes people wonder, like, are they listening to the people that sent them to the house to represent them, to serve them, or are they listening to themselves only? Because at this point they should be listening to American citizens who sent them to the house to serve them and the country at the same time. So now I want us to talk about something that actually it's so close to many Americans, and that is about healthcare. And you know what? Senator Jon Ossoff launched a major investigation into insurance companies, and that is specifically targeting their practices of denying medically necessary healthcare claims. And what we have heard is horror stories from Americans, or maybe even experienced people that have experienced this situation from insurance companies. They most of the time use opaque procedures and delay tactics, and they actually turn against these people that are trying to claim their benefits. So what he is doing is that he aims to pull back certain of these practices and ensure that insurance companies are held accountable. And I can tell you this is a very risky thing that he's doing. It's a very crucial fight, because at the end of the day, access to health care should not be a battle against paperwork, and profit margins. So if you speak about battles, I want us to talk about the ongoing fight for fair representation. So guys, former President of America, President Obama, has been a vocal advocate against gerrymandering for so many years, and That is for a good reason, actually. So the way Virginia's electoral maps are drawn, they are fundamentally not okay because they change the outcome of elections, and most of the times it silences the voices of the voters. And of course, this brings us to what has just happened in Virginia, whereby yesterday on April 21st, 2026, voters in Virginia, they approved a constitutional amendment that allows for mid-decade redistricting. This actually passed by a very small margin, 50 to 49%. That's a very small margin. It's like around 100,000 votes, or a very small margin. And of course, that's a very huge deal because, most supporters, they're saying that it's a necessary counter to aggressive gerrymandering tactics by the Republicans in other states. So these are some of the things that the Republicans have done in other states, like in Texas. So those who don't support this particular thing are saying that, this is being partisan and it undermines the integrity of electoral process. Anyway, this is a very complex issue, and it highlights just how much power lies in the drawing line of in a map. So of course, as much as we are focusing so much on political power, I want us to turn to a particular clip by the former Vice President Kamala Harris, whereby she was actually in Chicago at a Power Rising Summit, and she actually made direct claims about the current administration. And of course, saying that Trump has made America weaker, it brought a lot of conversations because, at the end of the day, that's a very strong statement delivered to an audience of Black women, where she also spoke about leadership, America's standing on the global stage, and domestic unity. And I can tell you, this is not just a political rhetoric. It's a reflection of how deep ideological divide in our leaders view America's strength and influence. And unfortunately, sometimes that can actually divide, and it can also, manifest deeply in a very troubling way. So, of course, we are seeing a very concerning trend in the southern US states where Republican politicians are actually using anti-Muslim rhetoric as a campaign strategy, which is extremely dangerous. And of course, this particular strategy is not new, but it's resurfacing with something else, with a different energy. And, of course, it's targeting Muslim political figures. This is a very dangerous tactic that not only alienates a significant portion of the population, but it also undermines the very principle of religious freedom and inclusivity that America claims to uphold. So I want us to end on a note about accountability, and we are going to specifically talk about elected leaders, because at this point we are seeing Senator Lisa Gravstein in North Carolina. He has actually filed a bill with a very simple, I would say it looks very simple. And according to her, she believes that people should be paid if there is a budget. So this bill proposes that legislators should not get paid if they fail to pass a state budget on time. It's a direct response to the budget impulses that have plagued some states in America, and most of the time it leaves public service in limbo. I want you to imagine if that was the standard across the board. I mean, we would have seen more timely and effective governance, right? I believe so. And thank you so much if you watched the clip up to this point. I do appreciate your presence. I love you to the moon and back.